All right, so this is from Theophilus in Elisha. So Theophilus is a secondary school dropout, and earlier in his life, he had a tragic occurrence. He lost his dad while he was in GSS 2, which is now Basic 8. Right, so because himself and his siblings needed to survive, they had to go learn a trade, right? And then for Theophilus himself, he learned welding, and he spent about 5 years as an apprentice and got a job with a construction company after that, right? Now, Theophilus is good at his job, he says. He has been in the company for about 7 years now, right? However, he seems to have problems at the office, right? Some persons at the office treat him in a condescending manner, right? And he feels it is because he's a secondary school dropout and doesn't have the academic qualification that those people have, right? And over time, he has developed a repulsive attitude, right? And he seems to be fighting and antagonizing everyone in the company, right? And he's doing this to prove a point that he's not below anyone or he's not less than anyone, right? But it's coming off as being repulsive, or antagonistic, right? He doesn't have the respect of his colleagues because of this attitude, which is not also helping him make much progress in his career. So he's asking how he can break out of this cycle of always trying to prove a point and gain the respect of his colleagues and make significant progress in his career. So that's from Theophilus in Elisha. Alright, so Theophilus, I would like to say you should smile. And the reason I say you should smile is because every situation is subject to change, right? So currently you are a welder in a construction company, and it looks like you are in a fight with everyone, right? And I can also understand the way you see things. Maybe looking at your background, right? You may not have the academic qualifications that everyone in your company has, right? And so it's easy to feel that because you do not have that, everybody is any condescending treatment is because of your deficiency academic wise, right? But while that may not always be the case, right, I'm saying you should smile because every situation is subject to change. Now, Theophilus, you want to start with a mindset, right, that everything, including the current situation, is subject to change, right? Every situation is subject to change. However, change is very deliberate, right? Even though your current situation is subject to change, change is very deliberate. So on one hand, yes, you should be happy that, yes, things can change. On the other hand, there is work to do, right? And there are things that you need to do to ensure that your situation gets better, and you gain the respect of your colleagues, and you are able to move forward in your career and make significant progress. All right. Now, Theophilus, you want to ask yourself, why am I in this organization? Why am I here? Right? It's not a question many people who work in a certain organization would ask themselves, but it's one you should ask yourself if you want to make significant progress in your career, right? And gain the respect of your colleagues, like you said, right? It's one you want to ask yourself, why are you in this organization, right? You need to define clearly and you state clearly, this is why I am here. And I believe that if you are forward thinking in that organization, right, you want to be someone who adds value to the organization. You want to be someone who helps the organization grow, right? And as a ripple effect, you yourself growing as well. And so 3 things are important. You add value to the organization, you help the organization grow, right? And you grow. And there is no growth of the organization without the growth of the staff in that organization, right? So it's important that you grow. So let's take your welding for example. How can you as a welder add value to your organization, right? So it starts with you, right? You need to grow. You need to increase in capacity, right? You need to be a better welder, right? So let's say you are just a general welder at the moment, right? But you want to specialize. I know you have underwater welding, pipeline welding, you know, and the likes, these specialized areas of welding, you know. If you developed yourself, say you picked an area to specialize in, let's say pipeline welding for example, not every welder knows pipeline welding, but you develop yourself in that area, right? Now, somewhere along the line, your company discovers that you can handle pipeline welding. And so, before now, your company was not able to apply for contracts that have to do with pipeline welding. But now, because you are skilled in that area, in pipeline welding, that specialized area, your company is able to go for contracts that have to do with pipeline welding. And guess who is going to handle that? You, Theophilus. You're going to handle the pipeline welding because you have built capacity in that area. Or say, that's one example. Or say, even in your general welding, you do some research and you discover that maybe your company has been using materials that are expensive, unnecessarily expensive, and you discover that there are more affordable materials that can be used that may even give better quality. Or you discover maybe there is a dealer somewhere who could supply your company at a more affordable rate, so it's going to cut down the cost of production for your company. So maybe where your company should spend maybe about 30 million purchasing materials, you are able to get a dealer who is able to give your company at 20 million or maybe 15 million, so you are saving your company 10 million or 15 million. Now that's not going to go unnoticed, right? It may look like that at some point, but that's not going to go unnoticed. And that's one way that you add value, right? By increasing in capacity. So you learn more, right, in your area, right? Whether you are specializing or you are gaining more general knowledge that will help you or make you more knowledgeable in your field, right? You know, you can spend a lot of your time antagonizing and fighting, you know, and trying to prove a point to people, right? Or you can spend the same time growing and developing, but you can't do the two of them at the same time, right? And both of them do not have the same outcome, you know. So rather than the cycle of, you know, antagonizing and then they fight you back and then you fight back and no progress is really made, right? Everybody runs away from you. Nobody wants to work with you because you are always antagonizing, and you know everybody is just staying away from you. Create a new cycle and let your new cycle be, I develop myself, and because I develop myself, I'm able to add value to my company, and because I add value to my company grows, and then it also falls back as reward, because there is reward for the growth in your company that is caused by you. You understand? There is reward for the growth in your company that is caused by you. So if your company sees that this person is helping us grow, that our revenue this year was 500 million, and because of Theophilus, we gained an extra 100 million. We were able to apply for some contracts which we could not apply for before now. And because of that, we're able to grow in revenue. You will get a reward, certainly, you know. And so you create that new cycle for yourself. I develop myself. Because I developed myself, I add value to my company. And then because I add value to my company grows, I get a reward. And I continue to develop myself. And that should be your cycle, right? That should be your cycle. And lastly, Theophilus, you need to change the way you see yourself on the inside, right? You need to be deliberate about the picture you have about yourself on the inside. I've seen people who, they meet strangers. Now, it's easy to say people are reacting to them in a certain way because they know them, right? But I've seen people react to them in a certain way, right? People they know. And then I've seen them meet strangers, and strangers react to them in the same way. And you wonder, this person doesn't know anything about this person, but why is he reacting, in this way to this person? There is an energy sort of, right, coming from this person to the stranger, and the stranger is only responding to that energy. And many times that energy is fueled by the mental picture that this person has of himself, right? And so for you, Theophilus, you may have your background, your peculiar background, something happened while you were young, and then for one reason or the other you could not complete your secondary school education or even further into the university, right? That's like how many years ago now? Maybe like 12 years ago. And then you probably are handling a job. Maybe you are welding, and then you may want to see your welding as not a significant role in the company, but you want to place importance on what you do, right? And see your welding as a very crucial part of your construction company and a very crucial part of the construction work in general. Many times the responsibility of dignifying your labor rests on the laborer, right? The responsibility of dignifying what you do rests on you, right? The responsibility of dignifying what you do rests on you. If you dignify your welding, people will see your welding as something like everybody wants to be a welder. If you also see your welding as one trivial job that you are just, doing for the main time until something reasonable comes up, people will treat it that way. If you dignify what you do, right, people will also dignify it. If you trivialize what you do, people will trivialize it. So you need to have a good mental picture of yourself, that you are doing something very dignifying, even as a welder, right? And that you are not what happened 12 years ago. You are not that secondary school dropout, right? Just like you wrote, you keep writing you are secondary school. No, you are not the secondary school dropout. You are working in the construction company. In fact, you want to change that picture from being a secondary school dropout to the most valuable asset of your company. You want to stop seeing yourself as that secondary school dropout and start seeing yourself as the most valuable asset in your company, right? The most valuable asset in your company, and keep having that mental picture. I'm the most valuable asset in my company, right? And this work that I do is dignified. And because of me, a lot of people want to learn welding, because you carry your welding, there's a prestige, you carry your welding, you go about your welding activity, you don't feel little about it. You are happy doing it. You carry it the way you carry out your welding activity. People want to weld with you, right? That's how you change your mental picture. You change that picture from within, and you ensure that you are not you do not see yourself as little in any way. Don't see yourself as little in any way. Dignify what you do. Dignify yourself. You are the most valuable asset of your company, and what you do is valuable. What you do is dignified. To wrap up, just to encourage you, Theophilus, I'll give you examples of people who started from, maybe you call it rock bottom in a company, from entry level, no serious role, right, and grew to be the CEO, grew to the top, and they grew to be the CEO of the same companies, right? I'll start with David Abney, right? That's CEO of UPS in 2014, right? And so he started in 1974 as a part-time package loader. So he would offload, package loader, load package. UPS is the shipping company, right? And then in package loader in Greenwood, Mississippi. He became CEO in 2014. Package loader in 1974, CEO in 2014. And then Doug McMillan, Walmart, right? He says he began in 1984, hourly associates unloading trailers and picking orders. That's how he started. He became CEO in 2014, right? James Skinner, McDonald's, he joined the company in 1971 as a restaurant manager trainee, right? He became CEO November 2004. And then Charlie Bell, right? Charlie Bell, McDonald's, started at the age of 15 as a part-time crew member, right? He became CEO April 19, 2004, you know. And these are people who seem to have started from no significant role, what you would say no significant role, but grew up the ranks to become CEO of CEOs of these companies, right? And so, if human beings like you could do it, right, you can also do it. And you know, one thing that is common with all these people I just called their names, they grew, right? They started somewhere, but they grew. They started somewhere, but they grew. And so for you, Theophilus, you can start somewhere and you can grow to the top, right? The sky is not your limit. The sky is your starting point if you commit to growing. So remember, first realize that this can change, and then commit to growing, increasing capacity. Be the best welder in the company. Research, increase in knowledge, specialize, go for courses in your area that will enlighten you more, you know, and help you become a better welder, a specialized welder, you know, and which will help your company, which will add value to your company and help your company grow, you know. And then see yourself the way you want to be seen. See yourself as the most valuable asset of your company, right? You can begin as a welder, and I need you to understand that yes, you are a welder today, but see this like you're just beginning as a welder. It doesn't mean that this is where it's going to end, right? So you begin as a welder, but you know where you're headed for, right? And then always remember, these people who started from rock bottom and made it to the top, and you are not an exception. You can make it to the top. Forget your background, move on, move forward, keep growing, keep developing yourself, and keep getting better. Alright, that will be all for now. If you have any further advice for Theophilus, please drop it in the comment section. I'm sure you'll be happy to read them, and it will be useful to others as well. I'm Elo Otiede, and I'm here to help you become a better version of yourself. See you next time. God bless you.